So when an organization decides to publish its data, what's the first thing that it needs to do?
Well, I guess the first thing they need to do is kind of realize who is going to be the consumer of that data. Is it going to be humans mainly, in which case you probably want to enable search, visualization, comparison, and download of the data? Is it going to be developers that are developing applications on top of that data directly, or is it maybe other computer systems that then need a very different set of things to kind of be able to do the connection between the two? So I think that's probably the first step. Secondly, I'd probably say that don't be too fancy about it. If your purpose is kind of getting the data out there, make sure you just get it out there in a way that in a way that makes sense. So I often tell people, maybe just CSV files with the attached metadata and description is the best way of getting the data out there. It's not perfect, but it solves maybe 80% of the need of whoever, and in that case, whether it's a human or a computer that's going to consume it, that's a very good way of getting it out there.
And it's out there.
Yes,
right?
And it's out there.
That's
the main thing.
What companies or organizations have data publishing practices that you feel should be emulated? Who's doing it well?
It's a great question. So, there are, at DataMarket we work with a lot of different data providers. We both kind of license our technology to data providers themselves to help them get the data out there, and also we have plenty of kind of public data sources that we integrate with and have kind of readily available on our platform. Out of the maybe 150 organizations that we have connected, we probably have seen like 149 different ways of kind of them publishing their data. If I were to name one that's doing it really well, I'd say the World Bank. They kind of both have the online web presence for kind of human consumption of the data, but then they also expose the data in pretty good APIs and make sure that you have all the metadata and all the contextual information that you kind of need to really understand what's there. So I put them up there as a poster child.
Switching gears a little bit, how should companies nurture development using their APIs?
Probably, the main thing there is going a little bit beyond just putting the data out there, because if you want developers to use your API and people to really use your data to the extent that you want, then you have to kind of nurture a little bit of a community around it. And I think that we've, for example, seen the US government and especially the current CTO, Todd Park, do some really great things about kind of realizing it's not enough just to put the data out there. You then need to kind of make sure that the innovation happened. And so bring in some early adopters, make them brainstorm, make sure they're happy with what they're getting. Lead by example, have them lead by example, and that will kind of bring others in. So and then also be really kind of responsive to any kind of, be open for people that are using your APIs and your data to get in touch with you. Make sure you answer their questions, and also you're not going to get it right the first time. So also make sure that you realize that this is an ongoing process where you have to kind of adapt to as kind of demands change, and as you realize that you didn't do it right the first time around. I'd say these are just build. It's like any. It's about building trust between the two, and that happens over time by kind of behaving well, and that's essentially what I would say.
So, and simply releasing doesn't necessarily build that trust, right? That's kind of the beginning of the relationship, but that can't be the end of the relationship.
It can be a good start, but if you then don't reply to any of the emails that you get, then that's gone.
Sure, it's not a good way to build trust. Yeah. So, last question for you: how do you see data discovery evolving over the next couple of years?
A great question. So I think actually today in data discovery, Google is probably the starting point for a lot of people. So they'll start search on Google where they then end up on different websites with different files in different formats. So they have an Excel sheet here, a PDF there, a PowerPoint there, and then some CSV files and proprietary web systems and so on. So it's they start on Google, but they end up with heterogeneous data in heterogeneous formats. I think we'll see platforms arise that allow you to have the data more readily at your fingertips. So you can search, maybe in a Google-like fashion or have other ways of navigating to the data, but then you actually have the data in actionable format ready to visualize, compare, download, and kind of work with it in the way that you that you want to work with it. So I actually, when I look at what we're trying to do at DataMarket, I like to say I would like to change the kind of the boardroom dynamics of when there is a question about, a question about kind of planning or decision making that comes up. Typically, what happens in that meeting is, let's ask research and reconvene in 2 weeks. I would like somebody to be in that room, kind of playing DataMarket or a solution like it, like the piano, and just bringing those things up as you kind of and then you can go on with your business.
Sure. You don't need to wait those 2 weeks. It's right here.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks so much for being with us. Appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, Mark.